Hey boys, welcome back to day 5! Yesterday, we discussed what compound interest is. You know, interest on both principal and interest versus simple interest, which is interest on the principal only. We also discussed how time is your dear friend when you invest your money with compound interest. Then I left you to do 3 exercises. The first was to figure out how much $1,000 would become after 30 years if you invested at 8% annual compound interest. The second was the same thing, but at 10% interest. The third was the same thing except at 12% interest. I also tasked you with thinking of an easier way to solve all that. Well, one is with really simple math that you've already learned in elementary school. That's what you're doing, right? Well, isn't that just this? The 1,000 being the principal times the interest rate raised to the 30th power, the number of years. Yeah, I know, I should have put the exponent outside the parentheses, but what you gonna do? That's just that multiplied 30 times, which is that to the 30th power. Any scientific calculator can solve that, including the one on your phone. Ta-da! 5th grade math. Still useful. Another way to solve this would be by using a spreadsheet. Speaking of which...
Okay, here's a little spreadsheet I made to do the same sort of things that I asked you guys to do yesterday. Here's a formula over here that does exactly what's on the whiteboard. B4 refers to the intersection of column B and row 4, which is $1,000. B3 refers to the intersection of column B and row 3, which is 8%. So this is $1,000 times 1 plus 8%, which is 1.08 to the 30th power. The caret here means raise it to a power. And you get the correct value. Same here, but going with $1,000 and 10%. Same here with $1,000 and 12%. So if left earning 8% annually compounded interest, that $1,000 will become $10,062. Not bad, but at a 10% annual compounded interest rate, it would become $17,449. That's about 73% better. And at 12%, you'd have $29,959. That's nearly 200% better than at 8%. So as you can see, the interest rate matters a lot. But as we saw in yesterday's lesson, time also matters. Take a look at the year-by-year breakdown that gets the same thing. See, these are the same numbers down here. All this does is starts out with $1,000 across the board, then says, hey, let me take the previous value, in this case B4, and then multiply it by 1 plus 8%. Now this dollar sign here, all it does is says, hey, keep this at looking at row 3. So when I copy this down, it stays at row 3 versus the others, like this number here goes to B5, B6, B7. So it's constantly referring to the cell above it. After 10 years, there's really not a huge difference between the three, less than $1,000. But over time, you can see the 10% column numbers really pulling away from those 8% column numbers. And those 12% column numbers, they're really, really pulling away. Let's tinker around a bit more. What if we earned 15% interest?
Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste. Copy and paste are two good friends of yours in any Google Sheet.
So this is going to refer to cell E4, being the one above it, and the interest rate of E3, which is 15%. I wonder what that comes out to. Holy moly, $66,000. That's over 600% of what you would get at only 8% interest. We didn't quite double the interest rate, but we much more than doubled the return. Matter of fact, it went up over sixfold compared to what we would have gotten at 8%.
The big takeaway here is that you have three variables: the amount you invest, aka principal, the compound interest rate, aka the rate, and time, aka time. The more you have of each, the better. So it's best to invest as much as you can, as long as you can, at the highest rate you can. Now, you don't have much money yet, but you do have a lot of time, so use it. As you can imagine, even small amounts of money can grow a lot over long enough of a time horizon. And you have plenty of time. You will learn how to get a better interest rate throughout this course and the rest of your lives. Now, continue to cultivate your inner cheapskate. Do that, go off to college, get a career, work like crazy in that career, make a lot of money. You'll have plenty of principal to invest on a regular basis. So then you'll have all three: time, interest rate, and principal. No pressure. All that said, here's your assignment for today.
First, create a Google Sheet for me. And in that sheet, have it tell me how much money you'd have if you invested $500 this year. Let's say 2022. And let's refer back to the previous cell here just to add up the years. So now I can copy the years down, have a bunch of years. So this year we contribute $500. Let's call that the principal. And then each year after that, we're going to make a little more so we can contribute a little more. Let's say we take the previous year and multiply it by, I don't know, let's make an interest rate of 5%. So 5%.
That's just a percent increase, not really an interest rate.
So let's say we contribute 5% more the next year. So we take the previous year and multiply that by 1.05. And end up with, see, it's going to suggest an autofill, but we don't want to do that right now. 525. The reason we don't want to do that is because I forgot to make that static. So it only refers to this, and when I pull it down, it doesn't refer to other things. But now I want you to do the same thing, and then pull it all the way down here and see how much money you would invest each year. And suppose we invested that at 8% interest. Well, what would you have after the first year? Well, you'd probably just, let's say, just have that $500 you invested because it takes a year. And so initially you only have this, but the next year you would have that $500 times 8%, correct? Or 1.08%. Let me make sure I make that static here. Plus, I would have the amount I added. Don't want to do that. So this is my investment column. This is how much I'd have invested after 2 years. So if I contributed $500 at 8%, after the first year, let's just assume I still have that $500, or right now I have 500, but at the beginning of the next year, I would have that $500 at 8% because I would have earned 8% on that 500 because it's been there for a year.
One thing I didn't make clear is this investment column has the same timeline as the principal column. So this is the amount of your investments at the same time as the principal. So that $500 is still just $500. But by the time you get around a year later to contribute $525, you have the 8% earned on that $500 because a year's gone by. Get it? Time only changes with the rows, not the columns.
So 1,065. The next year, I would have 1,701. Now, how much would I have after 30 years? I'll leave that exercise to you. Furthermore, add a column to the right of this that says, how much would I have after 12%, or at 12% interest? And what if I had it at 15%? So I want to see a 12%. Actually, let's see a 10% column, a 12% column, and a 15% column. Let's just see the differences here and what you would get. Instead of doing a one-time payment like we did earlier with $1,000, we're doing a payment every year. We're adding principal to our investment every year, and we're going to see how much we'd have at the end. So lastly, how much would you have after 40 years and 50 years? You can have all kinds of fun here, by the way. You can do things like, what's your age? Let's say you're 13 years old right now. Or in Nick's case, let's say you're 11 years old. You can always Add 1, that's how old you'd be here, how old you'd be here. So instead of just seeing a year that may not make much sense, you can see how much you'd have at a certain age. So let's put that in the spreadsheet as well, okay?
Let me know if you get stuck or you think you have the answers. Till next time.